Okay, so very quickly, I wanted to do another example again, just to show you something a little bit different. So let's go through and kind of figure out what we're looking at here. And pardon my drawing; it's a little wonky there, but you'll get the point. So step one, where's X marks the spot? X marks the spot where marginal revenue, marginal cost. So you put a point right there. Step two, what's the magic line? Magic line goes through that point, and we're gonna notice whatever the quantity is that's being exchanged in the market, okay? Step three, what are we gonna do? We're gonna calculate revenue. And we're gonna do that, where does that magic line intersect the demand curve? Right there. Right, so just like before, price times quantity, 10 times 10 equals 100. Step four, let's calculate cost. Now again, how do we do that? Well, it's where the magic line intersects the average total cost curve. And look, that magic line intersects the average total cost curve at the same point, 10. So 10 times 10 is 100. Step five, revenue minus cost. Now when we do revenue minus cost, 100 minus 100 is 0. So what's that a picture of? That's a picture of 0 economic profit. And if I ask you, hey, is that a bad place to be in? Is that a bad situation to be in? The answer is no. No, it's not. Because remember, even at 0 economic profit, the likelihood is that the firm is still earning an accounting profit. So yeah, it's not a bad place to be in at all. Okay? Now, let's continue on, and I'll go back and explain some of these. So we've talked about the goal, right? Maximize profit. You should by now know, it should, pretty well be in your head that the rule and how to maximize profit is to find that marginal cost and marginal revenue. Short run, a firm can earn any of the profit conditions. In the long run, if there are barriers that prevent other firms from entering, then the monopoly should be able to keep earning an economic profit in the long run. Barriers, we've talked about that. Firm, we've talked about that. I've explained why marginal revenue less than price. The marginal revenue curve is below the demand curve. Price set by the firm. We talked about the product. Let's talk about this one, efficient. Okay? So if I go back and I draw, there's my cost structure, there's demand, there's revenue, and there we go. All right, so step one, marginal cost, marginal revenue, put the dot right there. Step two, magic line goes through here like this, and there's some quantity, okay? Now, let's talk about this for a sec. Marginal cost equals marginal revenue. We just put a dot right there. That tells the firm, right, where to maximize profit. That is a different point than this one. Marginal cost equals marginal benefit. Marginal cost equals marginal benefit tells us what's socially optimal, best for society, efficient, okay? And couple of points here. So this is the price and quantity that's efficient, that's socially optimal, that is, if there are no other influences in the market that the buyer and seller will agree upon. This is what's best for the firm, which maximizes profit. If those 2 points are the same, which they are, you'll recall, in a perfectly competitive market structure, then there is no deadweight loss, and it is by definition an efficient market. But if those 2 points are not the same, there's deadweight loss. So what you have to do is find those 2 points. We found this one right here, right? Let's find this one. We have marginal costs. Where's marginal benefit? It's the demand curve, remember? Demand equals marginal benefit. So if I put my second dot here and I connect those 2 dots, that's one of 3 legs of my deadweight loss. The second leg is the magic line. That's why it's called the magic line. And then the third one is bracketed by the demand curve. And there's my deadweight loss, okay? If I had numbers associated with it, right, I could calculate out the area, right? It would be 1/2, Q1 minus Q2 times here, it would be 1/2 Q2 minus Q1, P1 minus P2, and basically the area of that triangle, but that would be my deadweight loss, and that's how we calculate it, okay? And again, it's important to know, it's hard to see, but where this spot is right here, notice how it's just slightly below where that hits the demand curve. So in other words, this is the price and quantity that maximizes revenue. But this is going to be the socially optimal price and the socially optimal quantity. And you'll notice that the price is slightly less than what the monopoly is charging, and the quantity is slightly more than what the monopoly is providing to the market. And the best way to understand this is, and listen, put down your phone, right? Well, don't put down your phone if you're watching the video on the phone, but you know what I'm saying. So listen to this. If I ask you, hey, can a monopoly, since it's only one firm, can they charge whatever they want to? The answer is no. You want to say yes. You want to say, well, yeah, it makes sense they can, but it's the wrong answer. A monopoly cannot charge whatever they wanted to. If they could, diamonds would be $1 million a piece, right? But who's going to buy a diamond? You know, if your name's not Kardashian, you're not buying a diamond for $1 million a piece, right? So here's the deal. A monopoly cannot charge whatever it wants, but it will always charge a price that's higher than what is socially optimal, and will always produce a quantity that's lower than what is socially optimal, okay? So this is an efficient market. This is an inherently inefficient market, and monopolies are inefficient, okay? So that's what we mean here by efficient. Nope. Why? Because there's deadweight loss, okay? But again, monopolies can't charge whatever they want, but they will always charge a price that's higher than what is socially optimal, okay? All right, let's move on and talk about this last thing here, this price discrimination thing, okay? So what do we mean by price discrimination? Price discrimination, first of all, sounds awful, doesn't it? Is simply charging different groups of consumers different prices. And again, at first blush, that may seem, oh, well, that's not fair, or that sounds slightly illegal. And I mean, it is illegal, right? You can't charge different groups different prices based upon things like, you know, gender and race and sex and age and all that kind of stuff. So that's totally illegal. That's not what we're talking about. What we're talking about are two things. So firms price discriminate if they're able to do two things, okay? The first, and probably most important, is they have to be able to segment different groups of customers by elasticity. And if you forgot what elasticity means, or you're just stumbled upon this video, go back to an earlier video. You can look it up where I talk about and explain elasticity. Okay, but it's basically price sensitivity. Okay, you have to be able to segment by price sensitivity, elasticity, and then the second thing you have to do is prevent swapping or trading, because it does no good for one group to be able to buy at a low price and then swap or trade with the other groups. A good example of price discrimination are, and this isn't really a good monopoly example, but it's a good example of price discrimination, are airline tickets. But if you think about it, different groups of consumers get charged different prices for the essentially same seat. Sometimes it's exactly the same seat, right? But they do so based upon elasticity, and then the fact that you can't swap airline tickets, okay? And if you think about it, who's the most elastic? So who's the most price sensitive when it comes to air travel? Well, it's families on vacation, right? They're not going to pay, they're going to pay the dirt cheap, whatever the cheapest rate is, that's what they're in for. Who's the most inelastic? Who's the least price sensitive? Business traveler. Why? Because first of all, they didn't probably pay for the ticket anyway. The company paid for it. They're probably, you know, it's a short notice thing. I got to fly to, you know, Chicago on business. But yeah, they don't care. They don't care what the price of the ticket is. So you can charge that person a whole lot of money, and that's exactly what happens. Okay. Now, as by way of an example, why? Why do firms price discriminate? Well, the easy answer is right here. What's their goal? To maximize profit. So what I wanted to do is just show you a quick little example of that. So if I say I've got 3 prices. Let's say this is for movie tickets. Okay, another good example of when this happens. And there's some quantity. Okay, now if the firm is unable to price discriminate, in other words, they have to sell, you know, all of the quantity at the same price to all groups, then what's the no PD? So no price discrimination. Okay, what's the total revenue? Well, they sell 1 ticket $9. 1 times 9 is 9. If they sell 2 at 8, that's 16. 3 at 7 is 21. Okay. Now look what happens when they're able to price discriminate. So here's total revenue with price discrimination. Okay. So you have 3 people walk up to the window of the movie theater, and the ticket guy goes, that'll be $9. Well, 2 of them turn around. I'm not paying $9. Right? It's probably your grandpa is definitely one of them, right? $9. I'm not paying $9. Back in my day, a movie was $1.50 and blah, 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 blah. So anyway, grandpa turns around and, you know, I don't know, your cousin turns around. And so total revenue would be $9. Well, that's the same, so no change. But what happens when the ticket guy goes, oh, wait a minute, we have a student discount. And then your cousin turns around and goes, student discount? Oh, wait a minute, how much is the student discount? He said, well, we can sell you a student ticket for $8. Now, you just bought the ticket for $9. We'll say you're not a student. You're just, you own your own company and you are fairly inelastic when it comes to price, okay? Not price sensitive. But your cousin, who's a student, goes, oh, $8? Yeah, okay, I'll do that. So what's the total revenue? Well, they sold 1 ticket to you, and they sold 1 ticket to your cousin, so total revenue is 17. Guess what? 17 is higher than 16. But wait, it gets more. Ticket agent goes, and we also have an AARP veterans discount. And your grandpa stops and he turns and goes, what? He goes, how much is that ticket? He goes, well, it's $7. Oh, okay. So you buy a ticket for $9, your cousin buys one for $8, your grandpa buys one for $7, right? What's that come out to? 24, is that right? And 24 is more than 21. What's the goal of every firm? To maximize profit. And that's what's happening. Now, I know this is revenue, but once we subtract out the cost, ceteris paribus will say the cost remain constant. You have an increase in profit, okay? And that's why firms price discriminate.